Hey, bro.
What's going on, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just flipping you. Okay, there you go. That's
All
perfect. There
right.
you go. You got it to the
Awesome.
side now.
Awesome,
What's
man.
up?
Awesome. Nothing, man. How you been?
I'm good, bro. I miss you, man. How's everything? Blessed?
Good, blessed. Can't complain. Can't complain. Got to waking up another day, chasing the same dream. So, you know,
Right, right.
awesome. And so I really appreciate you taking some time just to come on and hop on for a quick 30 minutes. I've been wanting
Of
to ask
course.
you to come on for a while. I think a lot of people can learn from your journey, from your experiences and all that stuff. So I'm super excited.
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
really quick, before we get into it, make sure you check out this man's YouTube and as well Instagram. He's got a popping off on both, pretty crazy. So it's awesome to see the growth. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, so the
right.
viewers can have an idea of who you are, what you've done, and all that good stuff.
So for those who don't know me, my name is Anthony. I'm from America, so I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. My family ended up moving to Canada when I was really young. So from about 12 to 25, I guess. Well, for the past couple years, I've been living in and out of Canada, but I guess I grew up in Canada. That's where I really started playing a lot of football and started making connections and making new friends in life. And then, yeah, so that's where I've been for the past couple years. I've just been traveling a lot. I've been blessed to be able to connect with a lot of people like Calvin. We met last year, or yeah, it was last year,
Yeah, that's true.
around, closely around this time, actually, around March. And then just kind of just growing myself, growing my YouTube, and currently in off season right now, looking to find the next steps. So my agent's been working, and I'm just trying to stay busy, trying to work as much as I can, and stay busy and get ready for that next step. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, just to get into like one of the first questions is one of the things that I admire about you is your tenacity because I think especially in the football world with contracts, I think that a lot of people want it, but when people see that work, it becomes a different story. They say, hey, maybe I'm okay with not making it to that level. You're somebody who has made it to USL Championship level, NISA level. My question
Right.
for you, and something that, like I said, I admire about you is that tenacity. So, how do you find that ability to really bounce back, from having a contract, not having a contract? Because for me, I've seen, especially some of my friends, they'll get that contract and then say it doesn't work out. And then that period's so difficult. Very few players have that ability to bounce back up. So if you want to speak a little
Right.
bit about that.
Yeah, no, it's a great topic to speak about because, as you know, footballers' career very up and down. And so going into this career, obviously I've learned a lot, especially from traveling all over the place. I've learned so much, you know what I mean? And so I've kind of just been telling myself and pushing myself that you just got to keep pushing no matter what, right? Like in the back of my head, because a lot of players will say that, it comes to a point when they're like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I need to start making more money, need more time to focus on themselves and grow. But in the back of my head, I've always had it in my head that there's going to be that year where I really sign a big contract or I can really push. And that's kind of what always keeps me going. I always have to remind myself. There's been days, obviously, where I'm like, where I'll be like, oh, like, do I think I'm going to get there? I'll have doubts and I'll have questions within myself, but deep down in my heart, I know that I'm going to get there. And so that's kind of what's been pushing me throughout the past years, because especially been falling in and out of contracts, went from 2019 playing in the USL Championship, where I guess that was like the highest level I was playing in my life. And so that's the highest performing year that I've had. And then going without a contract for almost a whole year, signing back this year, this past year with Stumptown AC and the NISA, it's just been up and down, And so I just kind of really push myself and always remind myself, because you hear stories about players who are 25, 26, 27, signing that big deal in the MLS and whatnot. And your whole life can change within that whole year. So, I mean, going into this year, I'm 25 now. I'm going to approach it differently. Obviously, I want it to make sense. You know what I mean? But I still have it in my head where no matter what happens, I'm going to sign that contract. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to where I need to be. So that's what's been pushing me this whole time.
That's awesome. And I think that's so important. I think because something that I think is overlooked sometimes is, obviously there needs to be a certain level of skill for, a baller to make it to that next level. There's got to be a level of IQ when we're speaking about the game. But I think that mentality part is so important. And I think it is so underrated, especially in terms of being talked about, just because I think, like you said, there are players that sign that big MLS contract at 25, 26. And it's about keeping there. And the only way you can really stay working at the level that you need to when things aren't going there is through mentality. So I would love to hear a little bit about, your experience. We'll talk about kind of, each level. So what, from playing, NISA to the USL Championship level, two different levels, if you're looking at players, what would you say is the biggest difference in terms of quality between players? I always love hearing that throughout the world, the different levels between players.
Players, I think it's the speed of play for one. That's just a lot quicker. And if you think about it, a lot of the players who are in NISA, it's players who are signing their first professional contract, who are just making that step and putting their foot in the door. So with the USL championship experience, it was more like an experience things. So you're playing with players who are 28, 29, 30, right, who have been in the league for about 10 years or who've been a lot of places. And you can see that the USL is growing. It's not an easy level. You know what I mean? Because they're good players. They're good, really good players that are performing at that level. So you can really see that experience. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's just the experience that they've had. They have the confidence. Because a lot of times when you speak with coaches, you speak with managers, you speak with players, in order for you to be improving, you need those game times, right? And so the biggest level, I would say, with the NISA level and the USL Championship is just the experience and the players that they go in. Me being as my first year in 2019 in the USL, I played a couple games, but it kind of hit me hard because it was such a long season. And so I wasn't experienced in that, right? I've never experienced a long season like that. I've never experienced the high tenacity in the games like that. So it hit me hard throughout the year, and it obviously taught me a lot. But I think the biggest thing is just the experience that the players bring in, and also just the confidence that you see at different levels. But one thing that I would sneak in is that there are a lot of high-level players in the NISA as well. Players that can obviously make that jump, that just need that connection. You know what I mean? So it's not on a level wise, it's not like USL Championship is all the way here and NISA is all the way down here. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's more of like an experience thing. And so I think that's the biggest thing that that plays the role between the levels.
Awesome. That's awesome, because last year was pretty much like my first year in terms, especially with the trial that I was fortunate enough to have, was like in that real professional environment. And as well, earlier that year with you guys and OPSM was like a professional environment as well. So it was crazy. It was very interesting to see the difference. So now I love hearing the different things and seeing if it's like the same thing. So that's awesome. So as a player and when you're looking to, make that, like, sign that next contract, what would you say in that off season? I think this is also important for people to hear, like, what are you working on? Because I think sometimes people that, aren't around the professional level or are in it, they kind of just think, oh, it's like vacation time, this and that. So what is it like? Because to me, there's really no off season, especially if you're trying to make that professional level. So if you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great topic as well, because it's different for every player, right? So when you're in the off season, you obviously want to pick up your game. You want to go throughout your whole year and improve on the things that you needed to improve on throughout the year. As for me, it's my diet and my power, my athleticism. That's going to take me to the next level. So during this off season, I've been focusing on in the gym a lot. I'm not sure if you've been seeing what I've been posting. Before lockdown, I was in the gym every single day, working on that explosiveness, working on that power. You know what I mean? And also really trying to focus on dieting, so in that way I can get my body up another level. And so I would say it solely focuses on what you need to improve on, and that's the first step going into preseason. Off season, you need to figure out what it is that you need to work on. At times a lot of players, it's hard for them to figure that out, and it's hard for them to take criticism. For me, I've been blessed to have people around me who are older than me who are telling me, bro, you're not fast enough, you're not fit enough, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, and I've been blessed, especially like with the people that I've connected with throughout my life. I can learn a lot from them. you know, so being open and obviously working on the things that you need to improve on, like within yourself. If it's mental, you know what I mean? You post a lot about mental strength on Instagram, on TikTok, and all that stuff, you know, stuff like that, that a lot of players, they don't see, but it could really, really take your game to that next level. You know what I mean? So it's just, I would say off season, you're going into the off season, you're focusing on the things that you as an individually needs to get better. So then that way you can step up your game, you know? And so, like I said, I've been working on my power, explosiveness. So really trying to get as fit as I can, trying to get in the gym every single day to work on my running form, you know, my running technique, to be able to get up and down the field, you know, as a left back, because modern day left backs, you have to be busting up and down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think you touched on a couple really good topics there, and one of them being criticism. I think like for players, especially because I also coach as well, and I see, like you said, a lot of young players and sometimes players in general have a really tough time with criticism. And I always find that interesting because as a player, I never fully like trust a coach or a trainer if he doesn't criticize me, because I don't want to live in this fallacy of everything is, oh, I'm the fucking, or I shouldn't swear, but I'm the best, you know, I'm the best player and all this stuff. So I think it's so important too. And one thing that I was really fortunate enough, we had a guest on the podcast, Tom Bates, who's a Premier League psychologist, and we spoke about like framing the meaning behind a setback or whatever. And I think it's so important for especially younger players to understand that like you need to be able to, you know, take you know, so-called criticism and understand that it's actually the roadmap to where you want to be. It's just showing you, okay, you need to get better at this, rather than it being that set definitive end game. So I think that's so important for young players to hear. So another thing I'm super interested in kind of hearing from you as well is, you know, when, and more so in the beginning days of before you started to, you know, fully be a professional, though, like that grind, I don't think people understand how difficult it is, how tough it is. And I've currently find myself in that position, that just going on trials, different here, this and that, seeing different opportunities. So I would love to hear from somebody who's not only been through it, but has done it. What, when you're speaking to, you know, players that, you know, probably towards, you know, senior in college or maybe have graduated, what's your advice for, you know, them reaching out with teams and stuff? Because I think there's a ton of different ways that it can happen. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
My perspective. Okay. So I actually, not too long ago, I think last year, I made a video about this on my platform. I think I made a video on it on my YouTube and also my TikTok platforms. But especially for those players who are coming in out of college, so they're around that 18 to 22, you know. And with North America, the good thing is a lot of players don't sign their contracts, first professional contracts, until they're out of college, right? And so obviously you can get drafted, and there's many ways you can go through academies. You can play that way, but I would say majority of the people in North America who sign, they're signing later in their life, right? So it's not like Europe where you have to be in the development when you're 17, 18, 16, you know, it's kind of different. And so it kind of plays well to the players who are in that situation. I would say the biggest thing is I would give 4 pointers. All right, 4 pointers. The first one that I would give is to obviously, you know, create your CV, because I didn't know about a CV until I turned 18, you know, so I learned about it really, really late. Now you have platforms where you can learn how to create a football CV. You can learn what is a football CV, right? You start learning that stuff, you start creating yourself, and you start obviously connecting with different coaches, different clubs, and that way that's going to improve your game, right? So first thing I would say is you're creating yourself a profile CV. Even if you're playing semi-pro, you're playing in a league, it doesn't matter, right? You put that down on your CV. You have references, that people that can refer to you, right? The second thing that I would say is obviously getting a highlight video. You know, like nowadays, if you don't have a highlight video, it's very, very tough for coaches to look at you, to take you seriously, for you to sign or even get a trial, right? You need that highlight tape. It's very, very important. I'm sure you've learned that within the last year, how important that is, right? So, even if it is like, let's say you're going to a combine or you have your games, you have your buddies, someone come film you, you need at least something for coaches to look off of or to work off of, right? So you create the highlight video. Once you've done that, I would say networking is
Mm.
one of the biggest things nowadays, because with social media nowadays, you can do so much through social media. You can send emails, you can go on the websites, find out what the coaches, you can go on LinkedIn. There's so many different platforms of ways you can be reaching out to different players, coaches, even players. If you're networking with players, it's not a bad thing, right? Because along the line, who knows? Once you meet this player, you might end up playing with them in the future. Like me and you, we met last year, and now we're doing this podcast together, right? So networking as much as possible, doing your research, searching around your area for the clubs. That's going to put you ahead of those other players who aren't doing it, right? And then obviously the last tip that I would say, the fourth one, is just to stay ready, So during the whole time while you're doing that, you want to be improving on the things that you need to improve on, right? So you want to be working on, if you need to build a better touch, obviously you want to work on your first touch. You want to get faster, work on your running plyometrics, work on all that type of stuff. So those are the four things that I would say for those players who are going through that time, that are going to benefit you and can help you the most. Because in that way, you will know what situation you will be in, you'll know the steps that you can take. And then that way, going forward, you'll have, so much more knowledge of the game and moving up. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think you said one thing that is so important is networking. And I think there's so many different ways to do it. Like, for example, with this podcast that I'd started with my YouTube channel last year, I've been able to meet so many different coaches, agents, everything. And at the same, and that happened subconsciously. I never even thought about it in that way. But as I did the podcast, I started to realize, whoa, like I'm meeting some people that, down the line could be helpful. So how do I do a podcast, but also softly sell myself as somebody that could be somebody in the future? So that, I think, especially like you said, with technology for players nowadays, there's almost no excuse to not be having some avenue to be building contacts and stuff. So I think that's so important for people to hear. So this will be one of the last questions, because I know that I don't want to take up too much time and you're a busy person, but if you, one of the things that I would love to, I think people listening would be interested in, as well as, when you're, how do I phrase this? So when you're a footballer, and you're in that realm of life, how, what has been the biggest expectation that you had prior to coming into it, that you had that didn't necessarily come true? And that didn't happen, in terms of like being like, well, once I make it, I thought I would, or everything would be this way,
So that's actually a really good point, because I was thinking about this recently. And so once I made it in 2019 to my USL Championship team, FC Tulsa, I thought this was it. I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to be playing USL next year. Then I could potentially move to the MLS. I thought that, I was just going to be smooth sailing from here. Once you sign that contract, like, it's like, oh, you're a pro, so it can't be harder than this. But that's actually false, because I think once you make it as a pro, it gets harder and harder, because one of the hardest things to do is to stay a professional, And so I think what I could have done better in 2019 was, once I made it, I kind of, I wouldn't say step back from working as hard, but I felt like I could have pushed myself that much more. I could have focused on things outside of football that would have helped me more, because every day I would show up to training early. I would do 2 sessions a day on the football side, right? But then you have to remember the mental side as well. You got to make sure you're taking care of your mental, your wellness, and all that stuff, right? So I'll tell you a funny story. Towards the end of the 2019 season, we didn't have a great year, but I was just like, I can't wait to go home, because mentally I was drained. And that's a lot of things, like, people don't realize it, but when you become a footballer, depending on the level that you play on, the higher you go, the more stress factor it has to it. If you look at the guys in the Premier League, like, I think about it and I'm like, wow, it must be so stressful. You have hundreds of thousands of people, that support you and that really try to work, like, watch you and be there with you. But then once it goes bad, right? So the one thing that when I went in as a pro would be obviously to stay mentally strong. One thing that I didn't realize before was, I thought, like, once you make it pro, then it's just easy, smooth sailing. You're going to be chilling, but it honestly gets harder because, as you can see, the next year into 2020, I went without a club, and obviously COVID had an effect to it, but still, if I was doing the right things that I should have been doing, then it shouldn't have been as hard as it was on me. You know what I mean?
Exactly, for sure. And I think that's such a good point, because when you speak about like the multifaceted aspects of being a professional footballer, that like
Right.
that like the mental side of it, how you're feeling, is so important, and I think like for me, I haven't signed a professional contract yet, but hopefully soon. We've been so
You got it soon, brother, soon.
no but one of the biggest things I've seen was so far from transitioning was like when you're playing against everyone, like, and I used to be told this until I experienced it. When you there's a difference between playing against men and kids, and I was like, oh, I'm 21, I'm a man. When you go up against a man that is working for his family, it is a different type of human being you're going against. I remember when I was on trial, there's this guy, he was like 6'5". And I was like, I gotta come out and catch her. And he was like Olivier Giroud. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I had to come out and like catch this crosses against this guy. And I remember but yeah, for sure. There's definitely, like that tenacity that's different. These people are fighting for contracts, money, and all that stuff. So that's awesome. So to wrap it up here, I just want to say, a really big thank you for taking some time out of your day. I really appreciate it. And the last thing we'll do is we'll end off. Who do you think is going to win Champions League? Just for a little fun editor.
Well, since Arsenal didn't, I think Arsenal would have made it, but they didn't make it this year. They would have won. Or go Gunners.
Arsenal fans.
Honestly, right now, Man City are looking pretty strong. They've got a quality team and they've been going really, really well. I would hope. I'm a big Messi guy, but PSG, I think they've got that curse where every year something happens, they end up losing. I would
money
say
can't buy chemistry.
No, seriously, you can't. You got Neymar getting injured, all that stuff, but that's a different topic. But anyways, so I'm thinking Man City. Bayern are usually up there, and a sleeper pick, I would say, I hate this team, but I would hate to say this, but I think Liverpool, like low key, could be one of the teams that would stay. But I think my top one right now is Man City.
All right, awesome. Well, guys, you've heard it here. That's who's gonna win it, and if it doesn't happen, then I don't know. No. But all right, make sure you guys check out his YouTube and as well as Instagram page. Some really awesome informational videos for young footballers, old footballers, whoever likes football and content. Make sure you check it out. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, bro. Honestly, I know we didn't have much time today, but if you ever want to do another podcast, let me know what's up. Give me a shout, and I'll definitely be down to hop on and connect with you. So just let me know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day, and wish you nothing but success in 2022, man.